So hello and welcome to the Potted RV. My name is Constance. Today's a little bit of a different video for me. It's been filmed in multiple settings throughout the day. But mainly what I want to go over today is what I've learned so far in a 100% potted gardening situation. Obviously, the biggest one is space. You can actually put a lot more pots in a small space than you think. I had a lot of people tell me, oh, you just go vertical. Vertical is easier said than done in certain circumstances because, forgive me, but it's very humid. It's been raining a lot lately. And as part of what this video is about is a lot of the June chores that I have to get to. I can't put them off any longer. I have to move the strawberries that are right here. I have to move those into a grow bag similar to this one back here, and it's got to be done tomorrow. Well, when you see this video, I'll be working on doing that. The raspberries and the blueberries are all going to be going into that grow bag. This is the wrong time of year to be moving strawberries, period, but they have to be done. The fifth wheel right across here, the most amount of rain comes off the awning, which is up there, and straight down on to the strawberries. And that was fine until we started getting heavy amounts of rain. And now my son likes to help me water the strawberries. He likes to help me water the garden, period. He's 2. So he obviously doesn't think to not overwater plants. So I've got that problem with the 2-year-old helping me water everything. It's not helping matters. These guys are getting way overwatered. So they've got to be moved. They're also getting way too tight in space. I figured with them only being 6 plants in each that would work, but it's still too tight of a space. These are June bearing strawberries. It's not feasible with what they are. So they're going to be moved, and hopefully I have enough of a growing season left that they'll still establish well enough that I won't lose them over the winter. That's hopefully. And then we've got where this compost barrel is where I'm going to be putting the second one of my 2 of the big grow bags that I just recently purchased. And that's because I've got a whole lot of herbs all over the place that are overgrowing their pots. They need to be moved. So that's a big chore that's got to be done, is the upward planting. And then, let's see, there's a lot of trimming back that needs to be done. The San Marzans are putting on fruit, and they still haven't been tied up. They need their lower limbs trimmed, which I did earlier, but for the sake of this video, they do need them done, and I did record trimming them, so we'll cover that. Like my sweet basil right here, which is Genoese basil, is overgrown. Its pot needs to be done. Now, another thing that I need to do is come over here. Okay, so the wind is picking up. We've got a storm coming through again. So the jewel amethyst eggplant that I got from Botanical Interest, my first one didn't come up. Now with how the tomatoes came up, this is such a light seed that I honestly don't think it can be direct sown. It probably could, but not in the situation I'm in. So I'm going to actually sow it into this little pot and then transplant it into one of the pots that the strawberries are in currently. And then I've got a lot of weeding around my plants because the landscapers here have been very, very sweet, and they don't bring their weed eater too close to my potted plants. So I've got to go in and cut that down myself. I've really appreciated how considerate they have been. And so I'm going to be having to go in with scissors and cut that completely down by myself. More than happy to do so. I appreciate the fact that they're not doing it because they technically could. So that has been a wonderful thing about this park. So we're going to go ahead and get into the earlier part of the day where I went ahead and did some of these chores, not all of them. There's a lot of them that I've got to do over the month. Tying up, they're over here. Tying up the San Marzans is going to have to happen over this weekend. A lot of the weeding is a regular thing that has to happen. The huge, massive up-potting that I've got to do in the next week or so, that's going to take probably 2 weeks to finish just because of the amount of them I've got. And that's just, this is what has to happen through the month of June. I've also got mulching that has to happen with all of these because the temperatures are definitely going to start really rising over the next month to 2 months. In this area, supposedly they start cooling down by the end of September, which is different than what I'm used to, but they're still going to be above what these plants are really going to be appreciative of for the next few months. So I've got to prep them all for handling a bit hotter temperatures than they're going to really want and humider temperatures than they're going to want. So we'll get into that and we'll meet back here in a little while. I'll leave the other one for the bees because they're going to be when I get the 2 big beds that look exactly like that one. One's going to be going here. Sorry about the truck. Now one's going to be going right here, and the other one's going to go back where the roller is, and the roller is going to be going up front. So once I get those, the blackberries, the strawberries, and the raspberries are all going in one of those, and then all of these herbs are going in another. So I decided I was going to go ahead and keep both of these and plant them together to take up one space because I really do like this plant. So they're going to go together. So I'm going to leave one for the bees, let the other one start to reflower so it bushes out a little bit more. And then that's another one of my big chores this week, or this month I should say, is trimming off all of the blight-stricken leaves on this particular tomato plant because they're so dense that I can't get back there and make sure that I'm not having blossom end rot happen again. So I need to trim back at least the ones on the bottom. Then the roses all have to be upplanted. They'll be upplanted into the bigger pots that a lot of the herbs are in right now. And I already harvested 2 of the leave those alone, baby. Yeah, take that out. I already harvested 2 of the jalapenos. That way the jalapeno can start working on flowering again. Yes, roses. And more roses. And that's another thing I gotta do today, is sit here and deadhead the roses. Yes, honey, move. And this is my bell pepper, and it's laden with bell peppers. This is the most bell peppers I've ever seen on one of my plants before. So I'm really happy with that. It has lots and lots of bell peppers and plenty more flowers happening. It's pretty happy. We're gonna start, I I gotta get new shears. We start deadheading the spent roses. I gotta find a stem for that one. Come on. Sometimes my camera doesn't like to focus in on what I'm doing, which is really kind of annoying. But deadheading is pretty easy, and I don't have too many of them that need to be deadheaded, but a few of them did. And then I gotta come in and cut all of this grass back because the mowers can't get in here. Don't be doing that. They can't get in here and he's too worried that he might accidentally snip my roses, that he's not bringing the weed eater this close, and I appreciate it. They've been really, really sweet about my plants, and I very, very much appreciate them. And then I'm going to let these peas, what pods they have left, I'm going to let go ahead and completely ripen and dry on the vine, and then they're being pulled because they're pretty much spent. They're just not producing that much anymore. And it's starting to get hot anyways, so I knew they would. There's some radishes down there that never really swelled, so I'm probably just going to go ahead and pull them. And like I said, I've got a lot of herbs that are overgrowing their pots, and like that's my garden time, and it has way overgrown, so they're all going into the beds. The strawberries, these little strawberries that are back here, they're going to my grandmother, so she can handle uppotting them in the pots she wants them in, or in the ground if she chooses to do that. The alyssum is fine. That's the zucchini that I hadn't wanted to keep alive, but my husband wanted. It's actually snapping back. It's less than half the size of the other one, but maybe it'll stay small. Zucchini gets crazy. And then that's the pickle bush cucumber is also supposed to be a small variety of cucumber. So maybe I'll keep it small, and it's almost the same size as the Space Master 80, but it's a little bit smaller, not much. And then those are the beans. They did not all come up as well as I would have hoped. And I planted all of those beans in, so I don't have any more to fill in gaps, which is fine. Hopefully they'll fill out. We'll see. Some of them have some pest damage. That's pretty standard. And then that's the Space Master 80 cucumber. Like I said, it's a little bit bigger than the pickle bush, but not a lot. I don't have to do too much with this bed. Watering mainly. But that is the same age as everything else in this bed. That is the other zucchini. This is what zucchini does to me. It gets crazy fast. That thing is only about 2 weeks old, and it's huge. And it's going to get even huger. So that I've got to see about possibly staking. I need to keep it under control now. That there is a reason I deliberately planted it at this end, and that's because obviously this is all gravel pad, so the mowers don't have to come anywhere near it. And then I'll be having to put trellises, basically your tomato cages is what I'm going to do here for these two tomatoes, because they are bush tomatoes. It's just to give them something to lean on if they need it. And same with the pickle bush cucumbers and Space Master cucumbers. They'll get to vining and they're going to need it. So that's one thing I'll be doing. This was supposed to be common chives. They did not come up, and for some reason I have problems with common chives coming up. So I am actually going to reseed the amethyst jewel. It's the amethyst jewel eggplant. I'm going to reseed it in here so I have a bit more control over where the seed is and where it stays. And then when it finally comes up, it'll go into one of the bigger beds, or possibly into one of the pots the strawberries are currently in. So the wind here has really picked up, and a storm, another storm is coming through. So I'm going to try to do this actually fairly quickly, mostly because I don't have a lot of these little seeds, and I do want to get them planted in on camera. So we're going to try to do that real quick. I'm going to bring this down like so. So I had, and I explained this later on in the video too, I had common chives in here. Common chives do not do well for me. For whatever reason, I have a really hard time getting them to come up. I know they have a long germination rate. They take a while to germinate, but they're still kind of surprising to me that doesn't matter. I can't get them to come up for whatever reason. Yeah, that wind is something else. Trying to get one more in there. I'd like to hedge my bets this time around because I love eggplants and I really want to try this variety. So I'm going to press that in a little bit. And I will link any of the tools I'm using, like my handy dandy I really hate this mount sometimes. My handy dandy spray can. This is a pressure spray can, and it's specifically for seedlings, and it just misses them to where I can be pretty precise in where I'm putting the water, which is kind of what I want with this, which is why I decided I was going to go ahead and plant it this way instead of doing it direct like I had done it before. Now, they're not burpee seeds. I'm not going to use that. I have large packages of, I think there's over 500, there might be more than that in here, of tags. And one of the reasons I like this tag set is because this pen does not wash off. So it doesn't wash off with the rain. It makes it so much easier on me. So we're just going to write this. I think I spelled that wrong, which is normal for me. This is actually leaning more on its nose than it is leaning back. My husband did that on purpose so that I could put a bit there and not have an overwatering problem. So hopefully we'll get it worked out. It is almost 90 degrees and I am sweating profusely. I also had a stressing moment with my son yesterday. He went down those stairs without holding on to anything. He had something in his hands and basically rolled forward and scraped his face up pretty bad, scared me half to death. So I'm still kind of somewhat there, somewhat not. I'll finish this video probably later on and get it loaded for tomorrow's video, which is Friday. I might edit that out just because there's no point. But it has been a rough week for me. But I wanted to go over, well, some of the chores I have to do for this month, as well as, things I've learned. One of the biggest ones that I've learned about an entirely potted garden is spacing. The fifth wheel, for the most part, doesn't get too heavy on these ones over here, but the ones that are at the back where the strawberries are, if they're too close, yes, you can pick that one. If they're too close to the awning drop off, which no, we haven't replaced the awning yet. But if it's too close to that, which is directly where the strawberries are underneath, they're getting overwatered pretty massively, and they were doing great when it wasn't raining as heavily, storming as much, but now that it's storming a lot more, they're not liking it. So even though it's the wrong time of year for this, I am going to move them. I may lose some of the cropping off of them, but in all honesty, I'm okay with that. I had never intended to buy June-bearing strawberries anyways. I typically prefer ever-bearing because, as you know, my son raids them like crazy. So June-bearing strawberries just aren't suited for what I'm needing. I do can, and these are what these are really good for, is canning. So I decided I was going to keep them, but I am still going to end up doing another bed down the road of ever-bearing strawberries. These are just going to be separated. I'll probably do, somebody told me, ooh, I don't want you to sting me. Oh, it moved. Good thing. Thank God. I don't know if you've ever been in the South or anywhere near the South. Red wasps are by far the worst wasps in the world, at least down here, to get stung by. They hurt beyond belief. And anyways, that's a big project of mine that'll be starting on Friday. When you were watching this video, I will be prepping the beds for these guys to go in. Hopefully everything goes well. The blueberries are all going to need to be up potted again. They're, of course, massive. And I honestly put them in those size pots thinking that I'd have at least a year. Because blueberries are typically slow growing. These guys are not so slow growing for me. So they have to go up in bigger pots soon too. And I will eventually put them in the barrel pots. My intention was after the sweet potatoes and potatoes were done next year, when I up potted the blueberries, they were going to go in those two pots and be like the hibiscus and kind of a permanent living arrangement for them. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm going to end up having to buy 2 of those pots alongside the soil I have to purchase today, not today, tomorrow. And they get to go in bigger pots. They have outgrown those pots pretty quickly. And hopefully I'll still have enough time for the strawberries to develop enough roots to be happy. This part doesn't shade as quickly as this over here does, but it still shades enough that I'm figuring they should be okay, because they're still going to be shaded from most of the afternoon, the western sun, which is why they're like this, is to keep them from being scalded by the western sun. Now, that's a throwback from my living in Arizona. Apparently it's not as big of a deal, although I have seen sun scalding here too, but not as much as I did in Arizona. So we'll work through it. So that was pretty much the basics of this month. Like I said, the nasturtium, eggplants, and I might do a few other things here and there as far as June plantings, but for the most part, I don't do too much in June. It's usually I start doing the fall plantings the end of July is when I do my next major planting. That's basically June chores. This is a big chore month for me. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.